If you're one of many Americans that isn't outraged at increasingly disturbing stories of police brutality, if you aren't bothered by babies being maimed by flash grenades, or mentally ill people being shot to death, or the elderly being beaten or tased, you probably believe the police are just doing their jobs. So if you're part of a majority of Americans that thinks cops are doing a flash bang-up job, then it's likely that you aren't bothered by the long series of stories of police raping women at traffic stops, the murder of individuals for carrying toy guns or selling untaxed cigarettes, or the Chicago police running a secret CIA-style detention center with no due process or rights, but plenty of torture. And a million more stories like this aren't going to sway you. You'll probably excuse anything police do because they protect us, even though their jobs are not dangerous. But let me ask you this, is it their job to cost the people they're protecting astronomical sums of money? To settle cases of police brutality and misconduct, Chicago has paid $521 million in a decade, with $84.6 million in 2013, including court and legal fees. Los Angeles paid $54 million in 2011 alone, and New York City paid almost $1 billion from 2000 to 2010, and the cost is expected to rise. There are countless cases that individually cost millions of dollars to settle. These totals don't always include the costs of shuffling these cases through the legal system or the paid vacations that violent officers receive. They do reflect that even if officers aren't always convicted or imprisoned, their wrongdoing is silently acknowledged by the system. Let me guess, you aren't affected because your city wasn't listed. First, you should bear in mind that your federal tax dollars have funded the outright militarization of police across the country. The Department of Homeland Security gave $34 billion in grants to local police, while the Pentagon donated $4.3 billion in equipment. This is all for cops who die more often in accidents than cold-blooded murder. The feds have taken to attacking peace and love groups and arming the NYPD with machine guns, though that ploy failed under the scrutiny of public opinion. They've supplied armored vehicles to schools and drones to local police, all with your involuntary contributions to the state with your tax dollars. This funding and arming blurs the line between military and police, but it also enables the growing mentality that cops, rather than protecting and serving us, a duty deemed null and void by the Supreme Court, rule over us. Even if you think this dynamic is totally acceptable, you have to acknowledge that it costs money and is thereby a burden to you. Police aren't just doing their jobs, they're wasting your money because they're enabled to commit murder and violence when you foot the bill. When you tolerate government, which relies inherently on violence to assert authority, you encourage perpetual violence. Whether you're afraid of the police or you love them, it's time to realize that your submission enables them, empowers them, and keeps them well armed and stocked. If you trust the police to use force, it's time to recognize that it's costing you more than the false sense of security that it's worth. Most importantly, it's time to accept that the control, obedience, and loss of freedom that comes with acceptance of these practices costs far more than any police brutality settlement ever could.